We keep things rolling here on the Sports Cubicle here on WCPT 820 AM and WSBC 1240 AM. It's Paul Chivari. I'm Mike Mercado. And oh my goodness, it's a glorious day when Paulie has that big old smile on his face. He's worked up some evil scheme, something good and delicious for all the listeners here on the Sports Cubicle. Paulie, you outdid yourself today. What do you have for all the colleagues here around the cubicle?
Well, I was, as I always search for content for this show, I stumbled on a book that's being released, and it's from a former NFL player that played with the Cowboys, the Colts, and my Raiders. So I definitely had to reach out to him. And as I was researching, I found out that our guest, Steve Wright, was also on Survivor, and he also invented the Cloudburst misting system, which I was able to enjoy in a very hot 1996 Atlanta Olympics. And he joins us today. Steve Wright, thank you for joining the Sports Cubicle.
Hey, Paul and Mike. It's my honor. I appreciate you having me there. I spent a little time in Deerfield in junior high. Love Chicago.
But I noticed you're a Midwest guy too, St. Louis as well as University of Northern Iowa. So you did spend some time in the Chicago area when you were growing up?
Most of my time was around the Midwest. Minneapolis a few times, born in St. Louis, Chicago, up in Deerfield, Connecticut. My father was a salesman and we were traveling around quite a bit. But mostly in the Midwest. And once I got a taste of the LA weather, I stayed when I moved out here in '87 to play for the Raiders and never left.
I don't blame you for that.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask you about your book, Aggressively Human, and it's discovering humanity in the NFL, reality television, and life. And I think for the football fan, you get a lot of some of the treats, the stories of playing in the NFL, but more importantly, you're approaching a conversation that I think needs to be had nowadays of trying to have, as well as the, aggressive mindset to approaching life, to have the kindness and compassion. Could you tell us a little bit about what inspired you to write this book?
Right on, man. It's thank you for bringing this up. Yeah, my book kind of just came to be as I just started writing during the pandemic. Had no name for it, didn't have a theme for it, just started writing. My philosophy has always been just take care of what's in front of you. I had all these great stories in me, and just like you two do and everybody else does. I've been fortunate. I've had quite a few. Didn't realize you were down in Atlanta as well, down at the Olympics. That's one of my bigger honors, even over the top of football. I think 11 years of football, starting my company there, but the book came to being by just starting to write. And then as I was writing, I was really realizing that, looking back at my father, my grandfather, they were very compassionate, empathetic men that always led with a smile and a handshake and talked to everybody. And that's who I am. And then I had to turn on the beast, starting in high school and in sports, if you were going to excel, which every kid wants to do. And then it led to scholarship offers and then led to the Cowboys and turning it on and off. And then, the more you see it in society today, there's just, I'm not going to do any politics, but, just the right and the left. And my thing is yin and yang. You got to have both. You got to have toughness. You got to have anger. You got to be ready to turn it on and protect yourself. As my wife says, I've got my spirit animal is the golden retriever, but there's definitely a Rottweiler sitting inside of me that I've really learned through my Buddhist way of meditating and everything else to keep the beast down. And that's where I'm in a happier place. But yeah, it's the pendulum of not being too soft and not being too hard and treating everybody as one, which you just don't see that anymore. Just simply walking through a grocery store, everybody's looking at the ground or somebody fighting and arguing. And so I just kind of felt it was a good time, and the theme developed, and there's aggressively human.
Steve, I am so excited to talk about what we're going to call the better half, Lizzy, in just a little bit, because there's something so commendable about such a stoic yet compassionate and individual like yourself who's lived a very unique life, and yet you have this other person, your partner who brings out this other side of you and helps you explore this journey. And before we dive deep into Aggressively Human, part of that is the human side of it, right? You're not just a football player. You're not just a partner. You're not just a son. You're not just a friend. You're all this combined. You're an entrepreneur. You like watching movies on Sunday morning, all these different things. How long did it take you to develop the idea of knowing when to turn it on, turn it off, the lessons you learned from your grandfather and your father to say, at this moment, I need to be the Rottweiler, but at this moment, I need to be the Golden Retriever? How long did it take you as a man in the society when you were coming up in the league that you played in to develop that habit?
Oh, let's see. For sure, simply when you strap your helmet on and you come out of the locker room and you strap your helmet and you walk across the sideline to get onto the practice field, it's full bore. You turn into an animal, no matter if, you've had a death in the family the day before, or you're hungover or whatever it is. It's, you go from 0 to 100, just red line. But then when you step off the field, yeah, I'm back down to who I am. It was actually a fairly easy process for me, but it was living more of the compassionate life. And the more I've been doing this, it just like any habit, it just develops more. So it's almost like one of these things. I think it takes 20 days to break a habit of whatever, sugar or cigarettes or something, alcohol or whatever. It also feeds on the positive too. So the more I found that, the more I smiled at people and stuck a hand out to shake hands or just, help somebody, it really began to feed on itself and felt right to me. So it was an easy process that I think everybody can get to, but you got to put an effort into it and be ready for people not to say hello back and roll with it and just keep going and stay on your path.
You mentioned earlier kind of like a Buddhist way. Is Buddhism something that you practice? And if so, when did you kind of come across that as kind of a religion or a spirituality to follow?
Yeah, I was raised in a Christian family. My parents, Presbyterians, always going to church. I read about this a lot in the book. And it just never felt right to me. I led a big ministry at a church in Orange County, helping the 3-5 Marines, helping almost a couple thousand Marines and their families. And it was a Christian thing. And really found a lot of guys just aren't walking the walk. They're talking the talk, but they're not walking the walk. And kind of, it just never really felt right. It felt great helping the Marines and everything else, but all the volunteers, not all of them, but a good chunk of them, and men's group and everything else, it was just kind of bumming my world out. It was just kind of like I was wasting my time. And not that I was looking for God or anything else. I was just looking for something that felt right to my faith. And then I ran across, I was listening to Buddy's podcast, and Sadhguru came up, and he's a mystic and a guru and a yogi, and I really love his ways, and I started following that. But before that, just on Survivor, one of the other Survivor mates taught me how to meditate. We were killing, we're around each other 24/7. So I started meditating quite a bit, and I really find that my mornings, if I can take 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes to meditate, it's amazing what it can do for you, because I set my intention for the day. Okay, I got this meeting with this prick today. I'm gonna walk in and he's gonna piss me off, but I'm gonna stay cool, and it's gonna be chill, and he's not gonna ruin my day. Oh, you're the only one that can make yourself happy, and you're the only one that can make yourself pissed. So I chose to stay cool, and it's a beautiful way to start the day, and it's nothing really heavy, but I'm responsible for me, which I really loved. I've been responsible for myself all my life, for all my advances and falters and everything else. I like they say, you point one finger out, you look down, you got 3 fingers pointing back at you. It's up to me. Not knocking any other religions, but I kind of learned to get off my knees and do something and move myself forward. I was responsible for myself. So it became a really natural process of just being responsible.
Do you find the modern athlete that you speak with, or the modern business owner, the modern person that's grown up in the social media age, do you find them to be receptive to these kind of life lessons or this life advice, especially somebody like you who's lived such an interesting journey and all the experiences that you've had? Do you find it a little bit easier to reach people in, let's say, the modern day in the 2020s, or back when you were in the locker room? Were they more perceptive then? How do you feel it's changed in society when it comes to people having an open ear and open mind?
It's a good question. I'm not really sure. I kind of learned, I don't know, probably 20 years ago that I'm responsible for myself. This book is not a you should book, or this is the way to do it. It's the way I do it. I've really come to accept that everybody's on a different path. And I accept it. And it's saw a great quote of, I think, a Keanu Reeves saying that, if somebody tells him that 1 + 1 = 5, he's going to say, right on, man. I believe you. Good job. It's, I'm not trying to, if somebody's asking me some questions about it, they're obviously interested. So then I'm going to go down that path, but I'm not going to just go in and start talking about Sadhguru or the need for you to meditate would really help you. No, but if you come to me and ask me, I'd love to sit and rap with you.
Paulie?
I saw that your wife Lizzy was a co-author of this book. Just wanted to find out, what's the relationship like? What sort of inspirations did you draw from her? What did she bring to the writing of this book?
Yeah, she's a brilliant woman. Went to Harvard, got her master's at Georgetown. I always love to brag about her. She wrote her master's thesis on the implementation of nuclear diplomacy at Georgetown. So she's got the bandwidth. And when I started writing the book, she had left her company, and we traveled around the world for 9 months. And so we're just joined at the hips. It's amazing. It's both of our second marriage. We get along just so well. We very rarely have an argument. And if that, we're keeping the volume down and we listen to each other. But she wanted to start getting into writing. So we both started watching, how to do it. So the master classes they've got, we joined, got a membership for the master classes and watched probably at least a dozen of the writers, Stephen King and so forth. Went to some conventions, some book writer conventions, and I just started writing. And then so every night we'd climb into bed about 7 o'clock and I'd read to her what I wrote, and she would, laugh or, want to edit it or say it was, perfect, and just kind of kept plugging along. And we did this for about 8 months, and all the stories are mine and all the humor and everything, but she really was the glue and put the final spices on it to bring it together and really see the theme and see the Rottweiler and Golden Retriever in me. And like she likes to say, this might not win any literary awards, but it's definitely a fun page turner for any guy. It's behind the scenes in the locker rooms. It's Playboy Mansion. It's parties. It's craziness. She wanted it all. She calls this her first pancake. So it's it's not perfect, but it's fun. And she's working on another one right now with my old teammate, Todd Marinovich, who I'm sure most of the world knows in the football world. And and I was his teammate and hanging with him for a couple of years. And she knows more about him than any sports writer. A lot of them just kind of piled on and wrote a bunch of, heavy crap stuff on them. She's got the inside scoop. So I just can't wait for her second pancake to finish.
Either could we. And it's an exciting meal, or a pancake in football terms, that you guys are working on. And joining us as this very special guest, and Paulie outdid himself. We got to give credit to Raider Nation. He is Steve Wright. He is the author, along with Lizzy Wright, Aggressively Human: Discovering Humanity in the NFL, Reality TV, and Life. And Steve, it's funny. My wife is currently getting her PhD. She is an author and teacher. I am finishing up a children's book. So I just all those memories when you were speaking about your wife, how that connection of her being your ultimate editor, your ultimate cheerleader, your ultimate coach, all of it put together. Did you ever see yourself from playing in the biggest games to, starting your own entrepreneurship, all this other, that you would be in bed with your wife talking about a book of the experiences you lived in your life?
No, it's beautiful. And we traveled around the world before the pandemic for 9 months. We traveled both with just a backpack. We just turned into minimalists. We both were, but we turned into extreme minimalists that time. We haven't had a TV in 5 years. So it's a great chance for your brain to do other things, invent. I created got a patent. I never thought I'd be writing a book, but now I'm published, a published author. It's just taking one step at a time. And my big theme in my book is if there's an open door, charge through it. And you might run into another door and fall flat. Big deal. So you never know when your life's going to end. And I'm definitely not going to end by saying I coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Steve, this is great, but now I have to ask the question. We are on the sports show. Do you still watch NFL football? Do you watch college football? Do you still watch Survivor? How in depth, without the TV for 5 years, are you? It's somewhat. Do you get from the second news or whatever? Are you still do you dab in the stuff that you've done before, or once it's conquered, it's over with, and you're on to the next adventure?
That's exactly right. I've kind of moved on. Football has changed, and I hate to sound like an old fart, football's not the same as it used to be, but it really isn't. Just as when I played, it wasn't the football of the 60s and the 50s. I think since 2000, they've added 50 new penalties, and the guys, they want you bigger, stronger, faster, but you can't. They've got a muzzle on these guys in the harness, and you can't touch, and you can't hit like this, and you can't grab like that, and over 100 commercials. And it after living football and taking it home and watching films, and it just I didn't watch any football for about 10 years, but then my wife started getting into it and wanted to know about football. We sat and we watched some games for probably 2 or 3 years, but we were both pretty bored with it. I'll keep up with it once in a while online, and hang out with some buddies. We work out Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and we talk a little football. But I'm no, it's kind of, once something is over, it's pretty easy for me to turn the page and kind of keep moving forward. So
Paulie?
So now we got to bring it to the football questions. You mentioned one of your first position coaches in the NFL was Mike Ditka, who, of course, very legendary stature here in Chicago. Tell us a little bit what it was like to work under Coach Ditka.
Oh man, I love Mike. I'm a 21-year-old punk, and there was 120 free agents trying out for the team. And for some reason, he just saw something in me and liked me, and he'd see me frustrated, in practice. And I knew I was going to get caught. It was, they had a number 1 and a number 3 draft pick that year. Glenn Titensor and Howard Richards was the number 1 draft pick. So for sure I was out. But I worked so hard and had the right mindset that they kept me. Mike would see that, I was frustrated, and he'd throw an arm around my neck and he'd say, let's go for a walk. This is during practice when I got my helmet on and everybody's standing around waiting for their turn. He'd just go for the walk with me. And he'd say, Coach Meyer is the offensive line coach. He's driving you crazy, isn't he? And I was just so frustrated. And I read about this a lot in the book of Mike in quite a few different places, but he just flipped my world upside down. He'd say, Steve, everybody here's got the physical tools. From the shoulders up is going to separate everybody. Deal with it. You're going to get your ass kicked. Learn fast. You're only as good as your last play. And it's just like, whoa. And another one, one of the ones that threw me upside down is, hey, you worry if he stops yelling at you. I was like, whoa, for a 21-year-old kid, my coach is yelling at me. And now, what it would be like if he just didn't say anything after, a play. It would just know that he's just not looking at me anymore and he's given up. So he was grinding on me a lot. I think he loved how much I was hustling. I was kind of in Superman shape. One of the preseason games, the punter, Danny White, ran onto the field, and yeah, I always count the blockers in front of him, and there better be 10. And I'm standing there, and I'm not on that team, and I'm just all of a sudden Danny starts freaking out and waving his hands around. I don't know what made me do it, but I'm looking around and nobody's moving. So I just ran onto the field at Texas Stadium, super ballsy. And I ran in, and they just point me to a hole to fill. And I blocked my guy, and I came off, and Ditka grabbed me and just, was just so thankful that they didn't have to call a timeout. Just being heads up. And but Ditka was the bomb.
That reminds me of I was reading about Tony Dorsett's record-breaking run, and how it seemed like it was a similar story for you, where you weren't even supposed to be at right guard on the play,
right.
Not your normal position,
right.
But you did a guy, and you went, and I watched the play. You had a great block on
I did
on the tackle that you were defending.
Go.
I did. It was crazy. I was in for one play in Minneapolis where I grew up, and it was just a great. I won't go into this long story, but I'm sitting in the stands 4 years earlier. I'm in 10th grade. I'm 17 years old, 16 years old. And now here it is 4 years later, same place. Now there's a dome stadium and Monday Night Football. And I'm in the huddle with the same guy that caught the Hail Mary, Drew Pearson, and Tony Dorsett. And I'm looking around just, about ready to explode into one big goosebump. My family's there with 35 of my neighbors and buddies, and I was in one play, and it went right into the Hall of Fame. So I don't know, I'm a lucky guy. I got my block.
Well, another coach I wanted to ask you about, you were there for the first season of the first African-American head coach in the league, and a Hall of Famer that played a similar position to you in Art Shell, blocking on the open side. What was it like having Art Shell as your coach, and what he kind of brought to your career?
It was beautiful. It was, like you said, he was, grinding on me as an offensive line coach, and wanted me, to excel, and, working with us. And I love the guy. And it's just so awesome how Al Davis, it doesn't matter if you're Indian, Mexican, Black, whatever. It's just, and in our locker room, it's just, it's a racial utopia where you just don't see that anyplace else outside of the locker room. It's just, you're all brothers. There is no color. And so to see, a good Black dude, be risen up like that, to be given the responsibilities, it was an honor to play underneath him. And it was always, kind of bugging me before that you just don't see that very much. And hopefully it's changing, but I take my hat off to and bow to Al Davis and all the different odd things he would do and pushing back against society, the norms, just, to do the right thing for his team. I mean, I played for the Cowboys and I played for the Colts, and out of the 40 years, the Colts just brought us back for one reunion, and it was pretty bad. Just kind of, sparing expenses for sure. The Raiders, complete opposite. Every year they fly back a couple hundred of us, put us up in the hotel, take care of the flights, all the food, everything else. Once a Raider, always a Raider. It's an amazing organization.
Have you been to Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas and all that since they've moved?
I have, and I'm going to go up there. They're bringing me up there to be what's called an ambassador next weekend. Awesome. Against the Chiefs, and I'm already going to run into a couple guys up there that I've got some funny stories of, just bench clearing brawls we were into. But now we're going back and forth on social media, looking forward to seeing each other, and that was a whole nother life. But yeah, I've been to the stadium a couple times, but this one's going to be up there working a little bit, and then schlepping my book around town. I'm going to go hit all the bookstores, and I got a couple signing. I got one signing I'm going to be doing with James Harrison from the Steelers. Yeah, the Beast. I've never met the Beast, but we were just talking right before we got on. He's scrambling to buy more books. He's blown through his books, and so yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun.
And the book is Aggressively Human, Discovering Humanity and the NFL, Reality TV, and Life. Steve, we're going to let you go on one last football one. This has been amazing. I could do this. I know Paul can do this for 4 hours. I can do this for about 3 hours and 59 minutes. But let me put it this way, Steve. Best football player you ever saw, whether it was a teammate or somebody you played against. who is the guy when I say this was the best player? Could be a lineman, could be defensive end, could be a punter. When you got on the field in the NFL, who was the one guy you saw on the other side? You're like, oh man.
Yeah, just can I go more than one?
Please.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's I was in playing against Lawrence Taylor, Reggie White, Bruce Smith, Neil Smith, every day in practice. Howie Long,
Yep.
so it Howie made me so much of a better player, and I go into all that in my book. And also too, just would like to, Bo was one dimensional, but he was better than anybody in that one dimension, and that's just pure explosive speed that was shocking to watch. Any long runs you see of him, I'm supposed to be out in front of him, and I'm chasing behind him 10 yards. He's already blown past where I'm supposed to be going, and so I'm just looking for fumbles. But I'd like to push my website too, my author website of writeauthor.com. Everything's on there, and I'm having a virtual book release this weekend. All that's on the website as well. And
it's writeauthor.com. You can also check out Aggressively Human, Discovering Humanity in the NFL, Reality TV, and Life if you want to see the hardcover. But please check out the website. Also, check out the signing. This is going to be amazing. We'll be making sure to post everything in which you're doing. And Steve, before I throw it to Paulie to take us home, I want to tell you something right now. I know you don't watch modern NFL, or at least, it's through the grapevines and everything. But I'll tell you this much. So much of what you told us today, the weird correlation that Chicago sports fans are going to eat up, talking about Bo and his explosiveness, what it means being one-dimensional, how does it impact the team? Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears are seeing that right now. Talking about Al Davis compared to the McCaskies and Hallis family, how Chicago Bears feel about them. What you did, talking about your experiences, you have no idea. Beyond the amazing work you're doing from your business to the book and your NFL career and working with your wife, Bears fans are going to eat this interview up. And I thank you so much, Mr. Wright, for joining us on the show. And Paulie, take us home. Great job. Great job, Raider Nation. Shout out.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks, Mike.
Well, Steve, once again, thanks for coming on to the show. Congratulations on the book release. Congratulations to your wife as well on the book release. And tell her we're looking forward to that Todd Marinovich book that she's working on.
Right on, man. Thank you. Appreciate it.
We got more coming up next here on the Sports Cubicle. It's Paul Chivari. I'm Mike Mercado. What an amazing guest, Steve Wright. Check out his book. Go to writeauthor.com. Aggressively Human, Discovering Humanity in the NFL, Reality TV, and Life. Shout out Lizzy and Steve. We got more coming up next.